The number one thing I got out of your course was that relationships are the job. Then orienting my whole week around a certain number of planner touch points.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Business of Luxury Weddings podcast. We have with us today Sarah Bradshaw. Sarah, you are a amazing photographer out of the DC area. I wanted to start with just give us a really a 30-second synopsis of who you are, what you do, what makes you tick.
I'm a wedding photographer in my 16th year of business. I primarily serve clients who place their families first and who are most excited about getting married. The wedding day will feel like the most sweet and hospitality oriented, intimate dinner party for 200 guests possible. And yeah,
that's it.
My clients tend to be ones who love a good generational focus. So they're really excited about passing their images down to their grandkids.
Yeah. Legacy. I love it.
I think in the past year, you're one of the photographers with the most times I've looked at your feed and gone, damn it, I wish I took that shot. I wish I took ours. I had one. You have that ability. I think aside from being an incredibly savvy business owner, the way your brain works, I think it kind of takes things apart and plays with it and then puts it back again and tries again. You're just an incredibly talented photographer. Like really, your work is just, you have that ability to produce images that are like, whoa, that stands on its own. Doesn't even matter what it is. That's beautifully shot. And anyway, thought I'd throw that in there.
That means a lot coming from you guys. So thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. I mean, let's maybe start about this. Like we've really come in contact with you the last year or so, more so as you've joined kind of the online community with the business of luxury weddings. And we've watched you kind of grow and change and all of this the last year and bump up against old ideas. So what's that been like? What's the last year been like for you? Curious.
I'm going to back up from not just the last year, but the last 3 years, because the last year has been like finishing work on some, I like to call like the last 3 years doing a gut renovation on my business. And I spent 2021 and 2022 tearing things down to the studs and moving some walls and, fixing the foundation and things like that. And then the last year for me has been doing, putting in fine mill work and choosing the wallpaper and doing all the finishing to make things look the way that I want it to look. And it's the exciting end of a renovation project. And you're like,
sure,
everything's finally clicking. It's finally like coming together. And you guys have been really instrumental in doing that and getting to this place. So,
gotcha.
I think, so I started my business in 2008 in the DC area and lived in the city, worked in the city for over a decade. And 3 years ago, we moved our family down to South Carolina to be close to my husband's family. And I still work, most of my weddings are back in DC, so I'm still very DC based. But when we moved, I had to take a hard look at my numbers, at the way that I was running a business. And I realized that although I thought I was running a luxury business then, I was really firmly in the premium market and didn't really know what luxury meant. So that started me on a journey of trying to educate myself on that. And what's been really, really interesting to me is that there are many different ways to build a luxury wedding business. There are lots of different philosophies out there. And before I was in it, in this space, I thought there was just one way to do it. There were one kind of luxury client, one kind of, standard business practice. You just had to fit in this mold that I didn't know or understand. And as I've grown into it, I realized there are lots of different ways to scale. Lots of ways to serve. There are so many. It's so interesting talking to planners who work in the luxury space because there are as many opinions out there as there are planners for the best way to function and how they prefer to interact with their photographers, how they prefer to interact with their couples. And so it's really been about figuring out what are my unique giftings and abilities, what brings me joy, how can I run a business that serves our life and that allows me to take joy in my life, not just in my business. Yeah. And then what's the business strategy that's going to complement that? And your strategy is what complements it for me. So being relationship first and relationship forward. And it fits. So your course has been really helpful in giving me permission to lean into my strengths and skills.
Yeah, I love that. Because really, if you think about luxury, that's what it is. And it's that personal experience, right? And it's interesting. Somebody posted, I think maybe a day or two ago in the group, asking the question, how do I bring value to planners? And the answer was like, ask. There is no like blanket, one size fits all. Oh, wedding planner. Here's how you bring value to a wedding planner, like free headshots, wine, cookies, It's like, no, connect with the person and ask, because then you're going to get it direct from the source. And like you're saying, now you have something that's precise and enjoyable and anyway, much more effective. So I love that.
I'm curious about the specifics. You said last 3 years you've been tore things down to the studs. What does that look like? What are some of the biggest changes that had the biggest ROI for your business, would you say?
The biggest ROI for me has actually been leaving the DC area, like not living there anymore. And for me, that's because I was stuck with a very small group of people thinking that I had to be look a certain way or charge a certain amount or market a certain way that everyone else is doing in order to actually survive as a photographer. And what I realized when we left is that, well, if I'm flying to DC, I can fly anywhere, which means that a whole world of other planners and vendors has opened up for me, which meant that my mindset completely shifted. So the biggest ROI for me has been changing my mindset. Sounds very, like a soft skill, is that's like not very tangible, but that really has been what it is. I'm a big reader. I read 105 books last year. Many of them were business books, and reading and opening my mind and understanding more about what I don't know and learning to ask good questions has been the biggest ROI. Because that has allowed me to say, what do I actually want in my life? What actually serves my family? Let's build out this spreadsheet to make sure that my finances are in order, that my numbers make sense for me and my business. It's not just some arbitrary number that I'm slapping on my work and saying, hey, this is what I charge because I heard somebody else charge that, but actually saying, well, no, what are my boundaries? How many weddings do I want to shoot? What's my capacity? As a mom of young kids running a business, traveling, like what are my boundaries? What do I need to be making in order to serve my family? And then it's actually just come out the gate with that. One other thing that's actually been super helpful for me that helped give me permission to make those changes is second shooting for other really established and big name photographers. I stopped second shooting years ago because it didn't make sense for my business anymore. But since moving, I've second shot for some of the top photographers in the country, and standing next to people who are on like the Vogue list, who have the same camera and are grabbing the same gear and standing in the same spot as I would, giving the same cues.
Totally.
It's like, okay, so this is really just about marketing and relationships. That's what this business is really about. This is not about the skill, because I could have done the stage just as well as she could have. And in fact, we would have done it exactly the same. So that gave me permission to charge more.
So is the mindset then just like this, a mindset of possibility, a mindset of openness? Is that kind of what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah. It's when I talk about mindset, it really is for me about not comparing myself to somebody else, but instead looking at what is important to me and my family and making that the top priority. And then, being confident in my skills that I know are there, and in my business acumen to get me there. And then, getting out of my own way instead of thinking about myself and about how I'm marketing, to think about how can I provide value to other people? How can I encourage this planner? Planners do so much hard work, and they may get oohs and ahs over it, but they don't often get a tangible, specific point of praise. And I love using words to build other people up and to be able to look at this beautiful tablescape and to narrow in on the intentional cohesion of the shape of the chair with the shape of the invitation that mimics the shape of the bar in the background. And I'm like, I see you. I see your intentionality and the hard work that, someone else is just going to see as, oh, it's pretty. I see the intentionality there, and I'm going to praise you for that. And that helps. It helps
Yeah.
better and helps them to feel more validated and encouraged in their work.
Yeah. And from a business perspective, what you're describing there is money in the bank, because if you can not only see that, like step into a room and not only just shoot the details, but go, oh my gosh, the texture of this fabric, not for one, to recognize it. And then for two, go to the Rishi or the Michelle or the Lynn Easton and go, that fabric's incredible. That's like, you talk about ROI on branding and marketing, and should I be on this list or that list? Should I pay for a magazine ad? Like whatever, like the ROI of that level awareness is not even close. It doesn't cost you a cent other than just being mindful and aware. That's profound. But I love this about you, Sarah, because I like that moving away is like this big metaphor for you of this new growth, because in all growth, that's really the thing. It's this willingness to be able to leave where you are currently and say, oh, this doesn't work. I'm leaving this space. I'm moving on. That's creativity. That's growth. It's a perpetual leaving, if you will, which I see in you this last year. You're constantly, you might come up to something a little bit and like, and then you quickly go, okay, we're going to try this way now. And then you build on it. Like, anyway, your Instagram is such a beautiful example for me of that. Like, trim, and all of a sudden it's just like, boom, And you do that so quickly. You don't sit with it and wonder. That's a huge standout feature, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's one other thing that I did that I think had one other thing tied to mindset, I think that I want to talk about, and that's that there's so many bits of information that are regurgitated within the wedding industry as something you should do. And I just, when I talk about managing my mindset, I mean, really being intentional to filter what I hear and to weigh it against what I know is true. So there's and what works for me in my business. I decided last year that I wanted to do better with Instagram. And part of that for me was trying to decide whether I needed to outsource it or not.
Yeah.
And the only way that I knew how to decide whether I needed to do that was to run some tests. So I decided first quarter of the year, I'm going to post every single day. Doesn't matter exactly what it is. I'm just going to post and see what my engagement is like, and see how people are interacting, and see if I, grow my account, see if I, mostly it's about inquiries.
Yeah.
And then the second quarter, I'm just going to post when I feel like it. And there was no change for me at all. So I was like, well, I'm not going to pay someone to manage my Instagram if nothing's coming from there.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting because you think about the Instagram thing, instead of like when you post and when you don't post, now you kind of curate that Instagram feed, and it's really, the pattern is clear. It's only one thing. And now that off the back of your outreach, you're connecting with people. Now it's just this beautiful tapestry. It works together. You know what I mean? So it almost doesn't even matter. It's like as long as the pattern is consistent and clear, and the brand is only communicating Sarah Bradshaw is this and nothing else, that's the win, And that's the biggest thing we keep coming back to with this, with connecting with people. I think in the middle market, you can set that Google SEO trap and they come, right? And then you work from there. But here, as long as the pattern's consistent, you're controlling your outreach anyway. You're the one connecting with people. As long as you keep that thing turning. Anyway, let me ask you this then. So you're obviously very open to change, and you've made lots of changes. You do them quickly. What has been the past year that's been like really hard to do at first? We like kicked against it. Like I remember the first time somebody introduced dynamic pricing model to us, both me and James were like, nah, nope, we're high. This is not how it works. Our value is our value. And that's been a big change for us. So what's been one or two of those things for you that's been hard to change?
The biggest thing that I got out of your course is that biggest thing that I had to change. And what the number one thing I got out of your course was that relationships are the job.
Yeah.
And so then orienting my whole week around a certain number of planner touch points, that's the job. I really, really pushed against that at first, because there feels like there are so many other things that are more important.
Yeah.
It feels like, curating my Instagram or making sure my Pinterest is on point, or there are a number of things that are marketing in the marketing department that feel like they're more important because I have more control over them. I can control how I think people are perceiving me. But when I make planner outreach, the job. And I believe it is the job.
It is the job.
And I've seen so much benefit from making it the job. Then I really resisted it at first because it felt, it's intangible, right? Like you can't like latch onto that. And I love I love how much you guys talked about how the investments that you made paid off 5 or 6 years down the road. Cause I think you can get stuck in this trap of saying, oh, I've been doing it for 6 months. I don't see any growth yet. It's like, well, it may not happen for 5 years. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. I've been in this long enough to know that 5 years goes by in a blink. Right. So, and I still plan to be here 5 years from now. So I can put these seeds in the ground right now and it's fine if I don't get, any fruit for 5 years.
But that makes me so excited to talk to you again a year from now, 2 years from now, because it will be exponential, the growth, because we are like 1,000% convinced of this. This is the job. We had that aha moment as well. Like, oh, wait a minute. This is the job. It's outreach. It's sales. That's the job. You're going to see exponential growth from it. There's no flipping doubt. It's just that's why we keep pushing on it. Because I'm like, as far as ROI goes, there's nothing in this space. There's nothing that even comes close to this. Nothing.
Is there, what were some of the challenges? I mean, you talked about mindset earlier.
Yeah.
But and you said, so that was part of the difficulty thing. Was it the idea of like, is this going to work? Or was it the confidence of to reach out to people that you don't have a relationship with already, or is there something else?
Yeah, I think it was some of that. I think that there's just being vulnerable here. By personality, I'm one who tends to be really concerned that someone else is thinking poorly of me. And I didn't want to be a burden. And there was another education group that I was part of that really spoke down on this kind of outreach. So that was there in the back of my head. I'm like, oh, there are people in the industry who really don't like that I would do this. And I just I didn't want to be a bother. Which was so fun listening to Lynn Easton on your podcast, a few weeks ago, who's saying like, yeah, you guys annoyed me. So I just said yes. I was like, okay, yeah, that's right. There's a gracious way to be kind of like, a bee buzzing in the ear for a long enough time that someone turns and says, okay, wait, what did you want?
Yeah.
And then, because whenever I do get a planner on a phone call or whenever I meet them, they're wonderful conversations. They're so giving. And I can tell that it's mutual. It's not just, I'm not just benefiting, I'm a benefit to them as well. And getting the first few under my belt helped. But I think in the beginning, there's just a resistance. I'm like, I don't want to be a bother. And they've got a million people who are, sending the same email. And why would they say yes to me? And who am I anyway? All of those thoughts going through my head, and just have to silence that and say, I have value and I genuinely care about them. This isn't, I want to get to know this person not because I hope they send me business, although I do hope that we get to work together, but I want to be an encouragement to them. I want them to know that their work matters in the world, and not just to their client. It matters to me too. I'm encouraged by their work. I'm encouraged by their work ethic and their interesting design aesthetic, or how hard they work, or their sense of humor, and how they're on Instagram, that they're valuable as a person. And once I just had to get out of my own way there. When you think too much about yourself,
that's it. Yeah.
You have to stop thinking about yourself. It's you're not really the point here. It's like, I love other people.
I totally get that. I'm not even a recovering people pleaser. I get it. I want to please. I have that same thing and not wanting to be a bother. So I get it. But there is, and this is a skill, but as you develop this more, there is a beautiful in between where you can be on a sales call. You're reaching out, as a brand for business. Not talk about that at all, by the way, but authentically connect with someone. You can do both. I know with lots of photographers are like, oh, I want to play the game. It's gross. It's whatever. I'm like, well, you got it, but there is a beautiful place where you can do both. You can take genuine interest, get the data you need, be a good sale, be a good proposition as a business, and enjoy 45 minutes on the phone with someone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and I think to both of your points, the idea of going to somebody with your hand out, like, what can you do for me, is the foundation, like removing that idea. as opposed to I'm coming to this relationship with something to offer, with value to bring to you, like, and looking for that. Because for me, that was the mind shift, right?
Yeah.
Oh, like, yes, it's annoying if I'm just saying, hi, how are you? Like, what work can you give me?
Yeah.
Versus, hey, how can I help you?
But James, that was a thing for me too, man, because I was so intimidated by sales calls because I felt like the moment I got on the call, I had to dance. I had to have a pitch ready, a presentation. It made me really nervous. It was all about me. And the moment we shifted that and said, hey, I have no pitch. Tell me about you. That's easy. Pressure off me. And now all you have to do is like listen and go, oh man, that's amazing. Like, tell me more. Like, and you're listening. You're like, really? What? Like, you were this? And you're just chatting to someone, right? And you get off that call. We say this a lot. You never talked about budget or rates, or you didn't ask for anything really necessarily. Sometimes you should. But there was connection. And that's money in the bank. Connection.
Yeah, the book by Daniel Pink, To Sell is Human, it's the one I recommend probably more than any other business book. But to anyone who I know that is struggling with the idea of sales, it really helped me. My dad was a car salesman growing up. He still is. So I grew up in a sales-oriented household. And so I think I was afraid to be a car salesman. my interaction with wedding planners, I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I resisted the idea of sales for a long time. Then I read that book and I was like, oh, wow. Selling is really doing nothing more than saying, I have this, you need this. Let me see how I can like help you.
Yes.
It's really
we should drop that in the notes as the show notes, James. But like I've thought about that a lot. Like all of life is that. It's this proposition, it's a value proposition. Like me, don't like me. Here's why. Like is that what the book's kind of talking about? Selling as humans, that kind of thinking. Yeah. Cool.
Did your dad ever teach you about sales? Like what?
Yeah, he did.
Was that beneficial?
It was, and he is a huge fan of mine now. And he was, the car sales industry is pretty sleazy. And my dad worked for a company that was not. They were very intentionally like they did one price selling before anyone else did. So, and he is the biggest extrovert, most like people loving person you could ever meet. I remember growing up, he's going to run into the grocery store. We're all waiting in the car. And it's like 35 minutes later, like he went in for eggs. Like, where does he do? Oh, he ran into someone that he was interested in, started up a conversation. And that's just how he is. And so he modeled how to just like be interested in people. And that's when I talk about my dad teaching me sales, that's what he taught me. He taught me how to be interested in people, how to just have a curious mind that centered that curiosity on people, not just on, a puzzle or a book or, how the world works. It's like centered on people. Try to understand them, try to, he can talk to anybody about anything. And I would hope to grow in that skill. I work on that.
Yeah. You know what? And Sarah, like even like business aside, as artists, your work will improve when you take this mindset of genuine curiosity as a photographer, as opposed to stepping into a wedding space again and going, oh, a wedding, I know exactly how to do this. Like this, like this, like this. Instead of that, you're just genuinely curious. Instead of a sales pitch, you're just genuinely curious. You see new things. Your brain is forced to look for things. It's very good at doing it, as opposed to going with a preconceived shooting idea or sales strategy and going, here's my value proposition. Like, the work gets better. I mean, that was another big shift for us as well. Oh, it's not about us and our work, the artists, the fine artists. You know what I mean? It's just about them. Boom, work got better.
Yeah. You talked earlier about mindset, and over the Christmas holiday, my family played this game called Herd Mentality. Have you heard of it?
No.
I won't explain the game, but it just had me thinking about mindset, and what you were describing was kind of you were stuck in this herd mentality thing, because people go, well, how do I get to that next level? And then they look at photographer X that seems to be succeeding, and like, I'm going to try to copy that thing. And I hear what you're saying, like you finally, after 16 years, decided to be you in your business. But I can imagine a lot of people having a lot of insecurity about that idea. Like, I don't know. How did you have those? Did you overcome that? How did you overcome that if you did? Were there other challenges in like just like forging your own path and saying like, I'm going to run business for me? What were those challenges?
I mean, I would say, just like Otto said, that he's not even quite recovering people pleaser. I would say I'm still there. I'm still recovering my getting out of the herd mentality. I'm still in process. Because I want to succeed in whatever I'm doing. Brené Brown, in her book Dare to Lead, talks about how every person has just 2 core values, and she has this downloadable list on her website that you can download and just like work on figuring out what yours are. And my 2 are understanding and ambition. And ambition for me is not about competition. It's not about being better than anybody else. It's being as good as I can possibly be in something. So I want to be the very best wedding photographer that I can possibly be. I may not be better than you guys. I may not be better than anybody else that I respect in the industry, but I want to make sure that I'm reaching the top of my potential. But for a long time, I had a hard time figuring out what does that even look like. I still struggle. I'm in a website redesign process right now and rebranding, and I still struggle with what are what's the tagline or 3 words that describe that. I don't know. What sets me apart? I don't know. I like old things. I like glasses, but there's so many people who do. But what has helped me so much has been to make sure that my work supports my life, that it's not, and that there are certain seasons where my family some of the family time has to be sacrificed because it's a busy, we got 3 weddings in a row, over 3 weekends, so it's just, family's just not going to take the back burner for those 3 weeks. But that over the course of a whole year, there's intentionality about the boundaries I put on business, and that the work that I'm doing supports my priorities, that they worked in harmony with one another. I don't believe in the concept of work-life balance. I don't think that's possible because it implies equal weight on 2 important things. And I'm like, I'm not going to be 50% mom and 50% business owner. When I'm shooting a wedding, I'm 110% there. I'm not mom. And when I'm with my kids, I'm going to be 100% with my kids. I'm not going to try to post on Instagram while I'm, playing a game with my daughter. But when it comes to managing my mindset with that, reading, I know I already said this, but reading books has been the thing for me, because I needed to stop listening to other people and their opinions within the wedding industry about what they thought I should be doing. Because it just gets to be, there's just too many voices. And too many opinions saying you should, or you must, or if you want this definition of success, you have to do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, but what if X doesn't fit with what my family?
No, totally.
We've decided, my husband and I decided this year that I'm probably never going to do a December engage. It doesn't work for our family. We love Christmas time. We have a lot of traditions, and I have young children. When they're in high school, that might change. But my kids are like 7, 4, and 2 right now. I can't be away for a week in December. It doesn't work for our family. So it's a great marketing opportunity. It benefited me so much last year. Probably not doing it moving forward in December. So I'll look at other ones throughout the course of a year. So things like that. And reading books business advice from people outside the wedding industry, people who are researchers, people who are, I loved reading the book Scrum, which is like a book by someone who's in coding. He like wrote code for the FBI or CIA or something. I don't remember. I love reading books by people outside the industry because they help me take a different, more strategic look at my business, so that I don't fall into herd mentality or groupthink. Because I don't want to do something just because someone else is doing it. I want to do it because it's the best thing for my business and the best thing for our family. And sometimes I just need the breath of fresh air. That's the wedding industry is wonderful. I love it, but it's weird.
I'm curious. How do you're talking about being a voracious reader? How do you go about grabbing that information and then utilizing it? And maybe you don't always. Maybe it literally is just like, oh, that was interesting. Like,
I do a lot of audiobooks, and I don't do podcasts. With the exception of yours,
Well, I was going to say you do now.
I do now. I do now. But I just decided a long time ago that I had to choose one or the other. I can't listen to audiobooks and podcasts. I don't have the mental capacity for both. So,
Yeah.
And I prefer like 7 to 10 or 15 hours on a topic that I get to chew deeply on versus a 45-minute conversation on something. So, so audiobooks are where I go. It's about 65 or 70% of my book consumption is audio. And then I start and end my day off screens in a book every day, just for mental health. So I take notes on my phone while I'm listening to audiobooks. And then I have an email newsletter that I write. They go out about every 2 weeks.
Good read. Get on the list. I like it. One of my favorite emails.
Thanks. Yeah, that is just, it's meant for other business owners within the wedding industry, and it's just business encouragement. So that's where I digest. So I'll usually choose 1 or 2 nuggets from a book that I'm reading, and I'm just like, oh, that's a good idea. I need to put that down and think more about that later. I grew up listening to books. My mom read out loud a lot to us. So I have the ability to hold a lot of information that I hear. My husband has struggled with that. He's like, I can't do audiobooks the way you can. I don't know how you do it, but I can. And it's what I'm doing every time I'm in an airport.
Yeah.
Every time I'm on a walk, every time I'm driving to or from, whatever long distance drive I have to get to a wedding.
How you process this stuff. You want several hours on one topic so you can sit with it. And this idea of tailor making not only the experience of the client and the planner, but your business, designing it so it fits your lifestyle. Because for me, I can't do 7, 8, I'll lose my mind. I love the quick little bit, so it just rushes in, and then I, for the colon analogy, it comes out the other end useful somehow, some of it. But I love that. Because when we consult with photographers, oftentimes they're like, oh, I want to go from here to there. But then when you ask them the question, like, how much money do you want to make? Or how many events are you willing to shoot per year, with your lifestyle? They even ask that question. And that's critical, right? It's like foundational. Anyway, I love that.
Yeah. This is something else that was really helpful from the course is when you guys are very open. You guys have been very open about your rates, what you charge. And I think for many years, I had in my mind a ceiling. I didn't know it was there, but it was a ceiling of like how much I could charge. And like, oh, one day maybe I'll be able to charge this much. And listening to you guys, it broke for me both the scalable rate ceiling and the longevity in the industry ceiling. You guys are both I think both older than I am, and I've been in this for a long time.
Thanks, Sarah.
It helps me.
Your guys are both posed. Oh, what do I?
And if you take your Metamucil, your colon will be much better.
Yeah. Cue sponsor. We have our first sponsor. Yes. All right.
Not that you're old; it's that you have so much more experience. But you're not retiring.
No, we're not there yet. Yeah, for sure.
You're still in it. And there are so many people who have been my peers who they start their business, they get married, they have kids, they retire. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I started my business, got married, had kids, and said, yeah, I think I got another 15, 20 years in me. Yeah. And I think I am a bit of an outlier in that, especially, I don't know that many women who have been doing this, who are in their like 50s, who are still doing it. And I hope to be. And that you guys have given me that like, oh, I can have a 5, 6, 10, 15 year vision. I don't have to do this all today.
Yeah.
I want to be consistent today, but I don't have to get this all done this year. I can take 5 years to get there. And that removes a little bit of the pressure.
Yeah.
And it also, I love that like one of the definitions of sustainability means able to be reproduced. So the idea that I can put systems in place now that I can reproduce next week and next month and next year, that I'm not just I'm not on this marathon, or I'm not on I should say it better. I'm not on a like sprint to this finish line where I will have arrived. I'm on this like, it's not even a marathon. I'm just have fitness as a lifestyle, which means I'm running 3 miles a day, in my business.
Exactly.
So it's not about here it's a race day. Let's train for the race day. Let's get to the finish line. It's like, no, we're actually trying to figure out how we can do something every single day, maybe for the next 25 years.
Yeah, totally.
And that mentality has been so helpful for me because it does remove the pressure, but it also it removes the pressure for immediate results, but it increases the pressure for sustainability and intentionality in what I'm doing. So it's like, make wise choices. Like, what can you do every day for the next 25 years? Oh, I can reach out to 5 planners on Instagram every day for the next 25 years. I can totally do that.
No, and then you see that pattern in all your life, how simple it is. Because for me, success used to be like this very confusing thing, like up and down, up and down. And then when you start writing the right methods over time, strategically, intentionally, whether it's working out, getting stronger, running further, having more money, more time with your family, over time, you get everything that you want. And it's not complicated. Everything is essentially a time equation. Everything. Yeah. You just do the right thing over time, and there's your result. And then it becomes real simple, not like hard. It's not you don't have to give it too much energy. Like you said, it's about outreach. So you're not spinning your wheels anymore, like giving 30% energy to SEO and this idea and that idea, or is it my brand? Or you're like, no, I'm putting energy here and I'm letting it just run, and boom, there comes the rewards. And then it compounds. And
yes. Yeah. But that is back to where mindset is so important, because that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where it gets hard, because we don't see results from this right away. This is not fast marketing. No, this is no get rich quick scheme. This is the diligence and the grit and resilience required to continue doing something that sometimes I just don't want to do every single day. Yeah. It builds character. It takes mental mindset management, just to say, I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah. And the reality of any get rich quick scheme or silver bullet or button that you can push, it doesn't exist.
No such thing.
No, not in any category.
And then it really is the discipline and the consistency and persistence over time that wins.
Yeah, always. In everything, right? A relationship, working out, doesn't matter what it is. It's always the same equation. You have to take that first step, and then you have to keep doing it just over time, consistently. Yeah, it's profound.
Yeah. You wrote in our community last week. You wrote an interesting statement that I wanted to ask you about, because I asked you about it in the community, and you did answer it, but I wanted to dig into it a little bit deeper. And maybe I feel like you've already kind of talked about it a little bit here, but you said moving forward, you want to work as if you have nothing to prove. You want to photograph as if you have nothing to prove. And my first reaction to that was like, well, we have to have something to prove. Like that's branding.
Yeah.
But I think I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I wanted to hear what you tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So the best way I know how to explain it is I'm a photographer. I'm very visual. So I view my heart or my soul. It's like a handmade bowl. It's going to sound very out there. And my peace and security and my joy is like this golden liquid that's in that bowl. And right now, when it's up until maybe last year, when that bowl got jostled or jiggled, liquid would over. And I want that to be solid so that it's not. So if someone says something critical about my work, it doesn't really affect me. So that if a wedding planner says, no, I don't have capacity for new relationships in my life right now, I don't take that personally. That I can feel confident and deeply rooted and secure in my skill, which I have, with my business structure, which I'm secure in it, with my pricing. I'm very firm and confident in my pricing, and I know, and I've had wonderful feedback from wedding planners as well on my pricing, saying it's like right on point, like don't change anything. So awesome, we're on the right path. Yeah. And I want to move forward without trying to prove that I belong in a room or that I have something that prove to someone that I'm worthy, or that I'm worth being here. That I want to just like have that self-forgetfulness, to not pay attention to me and how I feel, and be able to focus instead. It's like, well, I'm in this room, so I belong here.
Yeah, you put yourself there.
Thinking about myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have the freedom to stop thinking about myself and instead thinking about the other people in the room.
Yeah.
How I can help them and be a blessing to them.
Yeah, but you know what I hear again? I hear consistency over time. I hear that 10,000 hour rule is kicked in for you. Because you stated earlier, 16 years in the business, you're not new. And that kind of confidence you're expressing here now, I feel like that's confidence, like confidence comes from competence, right? That's acquired competence that's producing this new mindset in you of like, no, I'm good. Because I remember when this dropped for me a few years ago too. Up until then, it was just this insecure artistic mess. Like, and it drives you. It serves a purpose, but at some point you go, no, I got this. And that's, I recognize that in you now, which is a profound place to be at as a person and as a business. It's exciting.
Yes, because it frees us up to give. Instead of walking into a situation and saying, oh, please praise me for my work, because I want you to know how good I am so that you can affirm me, because I actually feel really insecure about it. Like, let me share my numbers. Let me share my pricing so that you can like praise it, or you can be like, oh, wow, you're doing so well. Like, I just want to not have to talk about it. I don't want to add my own accolades to statements about myself or my work. I want it to just be, and let people interact with it as they want to. So I want to be consistent as a brand, obviously, and I want to continue to challenge myself in my work. I art direct every wedding that I do for myself. I have my own pose book and like design deck that I make for myself, so I can call myself up to greater art and greater levels of skill for every single time I'm paid to step behind a camera. I want to challenge myself to be better, but I don't need anybody. I don't want to need anyone else to know that or see that. Right. I want to just be.
Yeah.
How did you get to this place? Because I think this is a really important topic, and I can think that there's somebody listening to this going, yeah, I wish I could get there, because I'm only 5 years in and I'm so insecure about my work. I'm so insecure about my brand. I really don't know what I should charge. How does one get to this place? Otto said it like 10,000 hours, but beyond 10,000, just pure experience. What do you think? What got you there?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of factors. What got me to saying this is my like phrase for 2024 was having a very close friend and my mom both call me out on trying too hard. They're like, Sarah, you're trying to prove yourself. Like, stop trying to prove yourself. You're already there. Yeah. So that was the first prompting. But then I also recognized, I had enough self-awareness to recognize that when Otto would say, oh, that's like one of the most amazing pictures I've seen. I wish I would have taken that I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
That I like treated it as if I was like a well-oiled surface and his comment just slid right off. But that criticism would stick to me like Velcro. And I'm like, that needs to flip.
Yeah.
I need to believe people when they praise and take criticism with healthy caution. Yeah. Right. So like praise should Velcro. And I should just like Otto's a trustworthy person. If he's praising me, I should believe him. And that he's not lying to me to try to like flatter me or, get something, right? Like he's being honest. So I should believe him and trust him.
No, you already bought the course. I did nothing more. Like
Right. So, and if a wedding planner is praising my work, if they're gushing, I should believe them. And if someone else is talking about enjoying a conversation, or that I've been a blessing to them, or I've encouraged them, that I should believe them. And if another person is criticizing, then I should say, okay, what position do they have in my life? Are they just like a random outsider who I've never talked to before and they're just like being weird? Then, okay, they can just be weird. I don't know them. And just like let those just like, that's oil slick that. They can just go away.
Yeah.
Consider it a source.
Yeah. But I do think like, it's not enough to just believe you're good. Like, you have to be able to actually support it with quality work and a good business structure, right? Like, the good business practice is strong character and integrity. And so it's not, so someone who's 5 years in the business who, I mean, I think like things that were helpful for me when I was 5 years in the business is talking to people who were years above me and saying, hey, give me like constructive criticism on my work. What can I change?
Yeah.
I don't know how to run my business well. Can you help me? Like, asking for help and asking for a good constructive criticism is going to praise what's praiseworthy, and it's going to correct what needs to be corrected. And that's, I think we all need like healthy constructive criticism in our lives to help us grow.
No, totally.
And there are far too many people who are just praise or who just criticize.
Yeah, you need both. But I love the idea of shifting the percentages, right? Because now you're forced in your mind to look for the positive more than the negative, to get drawn. And it goes that way. Our minds work like that. You've just like redirected it. It's going, ooh, okay, thanks. That's really nice. You look great today. Thank you. And just go, I'm going to feel great because of that. That's a nice thing, as opposed to questioning it. And it's like any pattern with us, over time it changes. You shift.
Yeah. And I will say, like, that's something I have learned from my Gen Z friends, that I'm like, I'm an older millennial. Maybe, I don't even know what category where I fit, but my youngest, I'm quite a bit older than my younger sister. My youngest sister, she's Gen Z, and I watch her and the confidence that she has. And I'm like, I wish I had that. Teach me how to have that confidence. And there are newer photographers in the industry who have catapulted to high levels of success very quickly. And I'm like, their work is very good and they have so much confidence and so much self-assurance. And I look at them and I think, I can learn from you. You actually believe people when they praise you. Yeah. Why don't I? Oh man, okay, I need to become more like you.
But this is the thing, right? Is James asked you kind of the big changes with success. I just keep hearing like relationship 101s, like all of this is applicable across a marriage, a relationship with your child, a friendship, a business partnership. That's all I hear. It's just nothing to do with photography, really. We talk about this a lot, right? The photography is good. That's great. Keep crafting at that too. But like the value proposition you bring to people is so far beyond that. So far beyond. Okay, Sarah, I'm going to ask you a question about risk quickly. No, that's a big thing, right? Me and James talk about it a lot. We're both risk takers. That's how we ended up here. What does that look like for you? I have the answer already in my head, I'm sure, how you're going to answer it. But tell us about how does risk look like for you?
My husband and I talk about this a lot because he's fairly risk averse. And I would say I'm pretty much smack dab in the middle, that I don't mind healthy risk, but it always has to be measured for me. I'm not some person who's just going to like blindly close my eyes and jump off the cliff. I'm like, okay, do I have a parachute on my back? Then I'll jump off the cliff. Let's see what's there. So risk for me scares the daylights out of me. But
it should.
But it should. But I talked to someone recently about scaling up, and she's like, "Aren't you so scared?" And I'm like, "Well, yes, but you just have to do it scared. Like fear's just emotion.
That's the growth.
It doesn't necessarily mean you're in the wrong place, right? It doesn't mean you're in the wrong place. You just have to do it scared, and feel the fear. Do it anyway. I can't remember who said that, but that's a quote from someone. And I try to, when it comes to risks, we're talking about hiring an employee this year, and it's something that needs to happen yesterday. So I need an assistant. I need someone in my office, and that's a financial risk because we're committing to a certain amount of salary, and scary, but it needs to happen. And I know the rewards that risk is risk for the sake of risk. I'm not a big fan of, but risk that has the potential to benefit a significant amount is always worth it.
Yeah. But this is the idea. We asked this because where were we, James? We were on a trip last year. We were listening to some big shot Silicon Valley CEO talk about this, and he talked about fail fast and often. It's just essentially saying it's part of the equation. Like if you look at our increase coming in, of 100% of increase coming in, 80% of them are failures. In other words, they don't book. That's what success looks like. That's the funny thing that people miss. They're risk averse. We have try to avoid it, but I'm like, really succeeding looks like that. It looks like mostly failure when you really break it down. It's like, you know what I mean? It's the same in the gym. It's the same in a race. Like if you want to build to a new distance, you're going to fail several times on that journey. And that's where you break and grow. And if you keep pulling away from it, you just never grow. You're that person in the gym on the elliptical, just like, yeah. Yeah. It's like nothing's happening. It's like, yeah, it's not scary. It doesn't hurt. You don't sweat. You're not scared of working out, but like no reward, you know?
Yeah, I think that's like, to go back to that book that I mentioned earlier, Scrum. A Scrum methodology or agile methodology is one that it's constant iteration and constant adjustment. So it's like, well, we're going to try this thing this one day. Did it work? Okay, maybe not. Let's adjust this tiny little thing. Let's try it again the next day. That didn't work. Okay, let's try this little thing again. Instead of the opposite of that is a waterfall method, which is where you build this whole structure. You start out with your idea, then you say the how to, and then you build it. And at the very end, you say, does it work? And if it doesn't, you don't actually know what didn't work. So that's in coding. And I don't know how to code, but I do know how to build a business. And I can apply that same thing saying, okay, well, that conversation with that wedding planner didn't go that well. Why not? Okay, it started out with this. Okay, well, let's maybe change the tenure of that question and ask it this way. And so the next call, let's see with a different wedding planner, see how that hits. And, oh, that call went much better. Okay, well, maybe let's talk about this next time with a different wedding planner. And so it's the constant iteration and the constant improvement. I think also redefining what failure is, right? Failure to me, like success to me means building a business that doesn't rob my life, that's paying enough for me to be proud of my work, but that my work is not my own identity, that I'm a more holistic person and I'm healthy in all aspects of my life, my business, my marriage, my parenting, my friendships, that whole thing. That's success to me. So failure could mean a business that's too successful. Successful, quote unquote. So it could mean, so like my word for I do a word of the year every year. For 2023, it was essentialism, because I really wanted to only say yes to the things that were most important and that I knew were actually going to move me forward. And I think I did that pretty well. But failure for me last year would have looked like saying yes to everything.
Yeah, totally.
Because it would have moved my business forward farther and I would have made more money, but I would have then failed at my marriage and my parenting and my my personal soul upkeep and, health. And so I think it's making sure that we have a proper definition of what the word success and failure means for us. Failure, is not a scary thing if you're talking about learning. Success can mean just better education. Failure at a one tiny little thing can mean, oh, that didn't land the way I wanted it to. Let me learn from that and try again.
It's unavoidable, isn't it? If you want to get better, you have to fail, because otherwise the base presumption, you're already perfect at it. So there's no room to fail. It's so dumb when you think about it. You're like, of course, like you have to fail to grow. You have to reach failure to grow.
It's like Simon Sinek's book, The Infinite Game. He talks about how there's one mindset within the business world that's like, oh, I just have to win at the game. And he's like, there's another mindset that just is, the point is to stay in the game.
Totally.
And and that's the infinite game. Like you win by staying in. And I'm like, that's me. It's not a game of checkers.
But I think, Sarah, that's in the end, when you talk about what is success, and it's a long journey, it's a combination of those things, right? Because you're right. For me, at some point, I was so adverse as an artist to the idea of competing with other businesses. I said no to it. And I was a struggling artist because of it. And at some point I woke up to the idea that, okay, no, I'm going to have to outcompete, X person X to win the business. And that produced a really successful business. But now I can pull some balance back there again and say, okay, I can hold it in balance. And that's growing up, right? It's like I look at my kids 14 to 5, to varying levels, they can hold certain things. And that's growing up. Like that's how I can tell the 14-year-old from the 5-year-old, right? The 5-year-old has a temper fit and he doesn't know what's going on. The 14-year-old goes, I'm upset, but I'm also being a jerk because it's this and because it's that. And that's growing up. And I think in business, I hear you talking, I'm like, you're holding a lot of those things here in balance right now. Like it's that part of the hamburger where it all combines in like, ooh, mayonnaise, cheese, bacon, a little bit of lettuce, yum. Anyway, I like hamburgers. Sorry.
Perfect bite.
Hey, this has been a great conversation, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us and spending your time with us.
Thanks for letting me. Thanks for letting me. Yeah. It's been delightful.
I'm going to hit stop, but don't go away.